Good evening. This is Pastor Barbara, aka Preacher with Parrots. Today is June 24th, 2015. This, I think, is going to be a rather short video. I want to talk about, I would like this to be an update to a previous video about what Bible you should buy and what Bible you should read. Basically, after going over in the previous video about buying Bibles and reading various Bibles, I finally wound up with the conclusion that if I had my druthers, that is, if you could just want a particular Bible and find it and buy it, I would suggest a Bible that I know can be had for $100 at TBN. And that's a companion Bible. A companion Bible, sometimes it's called a side-by-side Bible, and it also has another name that escapes me right now. But it's one side of the page. I have shown you my English-Spanish companion Bible. One side of the page is English, one side is Spanish. I like to take it when I visit a bilingual church because I never know if they're going to ask me to say or do something, and I never know which language, and it's convenient for me to have that particular Bible. This is a Bible that I showed you before. I found it in a thrift store. I probably paid $1 for it, maybe less if they were having 3 books for $1 or something that day. This is Kids Bible Study. If you look for children's Bibles in most stores, what they're going to bring you out is a Bible storybook where they give you a lot of stories. This is a Bible. I want to show you a clue. Zondervan, let me see if Zondervan made this one. Yes. Zondervan Publishing, when they put out an easy reading Bible, one thing I didn't cover, and being a teacher, both of the Bible and of public schools, I taught both 2nd grade and 6th. I don't know why it never occurred to me. But there are all kinds of kids that have different reading problems. There's dyslexia, where was becomes saw, and saw becomes was. They're just backwards. There are a number of different problems that kids can have, and in 10 years teaching in a public school, I have taught kids with a number of different problems. There are ways that you can correct some of these problems, and a lot of them go away. One of the ways is, and I was explaining this to the lady who was driving me Monday, is you write real big. This is an A. Okay. Now, when you do that on the chalkboard and you get this great big A, what it does, it takes what your eyes are looking at and what your hand is doing at the same time, and you've got 2 body parts looking at the same word or the same letter. So by having that extra body part doing the same thing, it kind of helps a little bit. One time I was in, I don't know if it was Sears or Walmart, it was one of these stores where they sell glasses in a little kiosk at one side of the store. And I was in there trying to explain to somebody that was seeing the eye doctor. And apparently the parent thought that the reason the kid had trouble reading was his eyesight. And, you know, big teacher making big explanation to stranger I don't even know. I'm in there explaining, it's not necessarily what your eyes see, it's what registers. You can have perfectly good eyes. Eyes are picking up everything perfectly. But if it registers differently, you got a problem. Well, the eye doctor marched himself out of his, wherever he was examining somebody's eyes, and he says, "Who's the lady who's explaining all this?" Me? He said, "I've never heard it explained better." Uh, too many, and it's true. If you become nearsighted or farsighted, if your eyes have a problem, then your eyes are not going to be able to carry a correct message back to whatever part of the brain is going to read it from there. But you can have good eyes and still have that problem. I had this Bible that I mentioned before. It says Kids Study Bible. I really felt it was a little too hard for kids. I would call it teenager. If I mean, I and I've read it occasionally to you all. And I think whenever, because I just pick up a Bible in my Bible study, and whatever one happens to be, if I want another, I just reach and get another Bible. And I don't think you would know that I wasn't reading from the regular NIV Bible. Zondervan puts out two kinds of kids' Bibles. I wish, as a teacher, as a public school teacher, I wished, Praise is having computer trouble. Is there anything we can do to help? I should explain that at the same time I'm making this video, I also have a live Bible study going. So occasionally you'll hear me talk to somebody. I don't know. If you can explain it, maybe Dogwood can help you. I don't know. It's in the internet? Okay, he'll be back. All right. They put out, and I'm going to show you actually pictures of it. They put out a Bible which is for kids 6 to 10. I don't think it's for kids 6 to 10. They've suddenly, in the last, since I stopped teaching public school, gotten much more brilliant. I think it's more, I think the one they label 6 to 10 would be more like 12 and up. Nevertheless, there are two kids' Bibles. If you see in an NIV Bible that it says NIV, see that little red R, NIV, NI small r, V, that is the younger one. This is the 6 to 10. I'm going to show you another Bible exactly like this that doesn't look like a kid's Bible. I'm going to read a little bit from it. So you'll see it's not babyish. Let me just pick up. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary and Joseph had promised to get married. But before they started to live together, it became clear that she was going to have a baby. She became pregnant by the power of the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph was a godly man. I don't see a 6-year-old reading this. But this is from that Bible. Now, suppose we had somebody that had a reading problem, or somebody that spoke another language and was just learning English. I taught many, many kids from Mexico that were really good in Spanish, but English was another matter. So they were really advanced in their knowledge, but they were behind in their English. Now, I would call this a Bible that looks childish. And while in the past I recommended this to people who could benefit from something more easy reading, it does have pictures in it that looks like it's for kids. And the pages itself look that way. Let me show you something. What do you think about this? Same Bible. I bought it for about $8. I got this for somebody that I had in mind. Now, when you're going to, no person, no woman, no man that had a reading problem would be embarrassed to carry this anywhere. And let me read from it. In the time of King Herod of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Same Bible. Okay. No pictures. There's only one problem with this, but you can't have everything. And so when I bought this, as I said, I had a particular person in mind. If I were buying it for myself, I would have purchased a different paper. Remember I told you on my other video about Bibles that if you're going to mark a Bible, or if you're going to use a marker, or if you're going to underline on cheap paper, it will go through. But in this case, you can use colored pencils and a light pen. But as I said, you can't get anything. This is going to be a good temporary Bible for somebody. This supposedly is for 6 to 10 years old. Now, I have some information. I'm going to put it up long enough on the screen so those that are watching the video can get the information. Wouldn't you know it's going to act up here and give me trouble. Here we go. I have some information here. See if I can talk and mess with this at the same time. I knew that there might be people that want this Bible or one like it, and I'm going to show you pictures. Where's my cell phone? I took pictures of a couple of the Bibles that I didn't buy to show you what they look like. I talked to the people there. Now, I know that when I tell you it's Zondervan at Grand Rapids, that's all the information you need to go to a bookseller to see if they have the Bible you want. But if you're not comfortable doing that, and I'm sure there are other places, I looked for things in Amazon that I didn't find, but maybe if I had approached it from another point of view, I might have found information. But to make it easy for somebody that saw something they felt would help them or somebody they know, I got some information from this Bible bookstore, and I said, if anybody called you or emailed you, would you mail this to them? And I said, this, I'm sure Zondervan has, they do have, I even found an 800 number, and they have stores all over. But if you live on a farm or a small town, you might be 50, 100 miles away. I just happen to live in a well-populated area. But if somebody wanted to, you could call. I talked to a lovely young woman by the name of Tiffany, and she knows I do these programs. The reason I first spoke with her is when I wanted to see the inside of this Bible. It was covered. It was sealed up, and I needed to see inside. And I asked her if it was all right to take the sealed part off, and she took it off for me. Then later I bought that and something else. No. I found it. This information I'm going to hold up. I want to make sure that it's visible on the video. I can always get to my group later. It is Lifeway, written as one word, Christian Stores. This particular one is 9944 Alabama Street in Redlands, California. I see it's not coming through on the other screen. Let me see if I can move it a little bit. Now I've got to get where I can see it. 9944. I'll get it back to my group later. It's not coming out well on the live study. Alabama Street, Redlands, California, 92374 9487. Let me double check it. Nine two three seven four 9487. The telephone number is 909 307 1737. I'll give you the email in a minute, but when I unwrapped another Bible that I purchased, on the wrapping, on the bag, it had an 800 number for all of their stores. They have an all-over website, but I didn't find it too informative. If you want it, it's lifeway.com. Lifeway, one word, .com. This is their 800 number. 800 233 1123. I want to give you again, and I'll put this up on the screen again and leave it a little bit longer. If you want, they'll be happy to talk with you. You can ask for Tiffany. Now, I have their business cards where I put them. The email is to the manager of the store. So the phone number for this particular store, and most of your cell phones will call without an extra charge, it's 909 793. Whoops. Forget that. That was fax. Phone number again. 909 307 1737. Now I'm putting this up. I'm trying to make it clear. For the video. I don't know why it came out in blue. The part that's in black is much easier to read. The email is Susie, S-U-S-I-E, Woodford, WOODFORD, at lifeway.com. Third from the bottom. Susie.Woodford at lifeway.com. I keep thinking if I get a little closer, this is a little clearer than it's been before, so I'll leave it up for just a minute. Okay. Now, let me show you what the 6 to 10 Bible looks like and what it costs. I'm showing you good Bibles now. What I showed you a minute ago was inexpensive, but it's because the paper and the cover are inexpensive. The Bible inside is exactly the same. Let me show you this is not 6 to 10. I believe this is like 8 to 12. This is what it looks like on the inside. It has notations. They're not pictures. It doesn't want to be still. That's what it looks like on the inside. It is not childish. However, the other one, let me go back here to it. This is what it looks like on the outside. This is the 8 to 12, I think. It doesn't look childish at all. However, the 6 to 10 does not look childish on the outside, but the paper that comes around the Bible, which you're going to take off, looks a little childish. They'd call it an adventure Bible. Then this is the picture inside of it. So it really looks more like a teenage boy's, I think. It's got, I think it's an off-road truck or something going up a hill. Here it is. That is a bit childish looking. But this is the paper on the outside. And that's what that looks like. One of these is, I'll give you the price on them, because I recommend it for anybody, you know, if you can't understand it, there's no point in reading. Let me tell you what I used to do. It's just an idea I came up with when I was very young, and it worked for me. When I was in college, if I started to study a topic that I didn't understand, let's talk about electrical engineering, or how a spaceship runs, or even computer technology, way beyond anything I could understand. I would read it and it meant nothing to me. I was in college. I wasn't stupid. Every degree I graduated with honors. So I wasn't stupid. But the subject was so foreign to me, I couldn't understand it at a college level, even though I was a college student. So I would go to the public library, and I would go to the junior high school section, and I would get a book on the same subject, meaning the same material information was being given out. Walmart is not a specialized store. They specialize in selling things inexpensive. So if inexpensive is what you're looking for, that's a good place to go. But if you're looking for something specialized, then you need to go to a store that specializes in what you're looking for, and that's what we're talking about now. It's going to cost more than you're going to. There are some good Bibles that you can get at Walmart, but not what I'm talking about. You know that any time you have something that lots of people are going to buy, I don't care whether it's ice cream cones or hamburgers or Bibles, if lots of people are going to buy it, the price will automatically be lower because they have a big audience. But if it's something that only a few people are going to buy, it's going to cost more because they have to make up for their costs other than by selling it to many people. All right, let me give you the prices on those two Bibles so that you'll know if you can afford them. And then I'm going to show you what I bought for Mama. Okay. I told you if it says NIV, that is age 6 to 10. This is what I wrote on a really nice Bible that I saw. It's an NIRV Adventure Bible for Early Readers. I showed you the picture. It said Adventure with the truck. These are my notes. No babyish pictures. NIV version. If you go to buy it somewhere and you needed the publisher, it's the NIV version, but it's Zonder, Z-O-N-D-E-R, kids. See, it's Zondervan is the name of the publishing company in Grand Rapids. But for the kids, it's called Zonder Kids. It's a hardcover. That one is $29.99, so it's $30. It's good paper, good cover, you know, lasts a long time. And except for, I think, someplace in that Bible, you may see that truck. I think of it more as cartoonish than I do babyish. Hi, Granny, and did it. All right, now, let's go to the one that is for ages 9 to 12. It's called the NIV Adventure Bible. It's the NIV version. It's also Zonder Kids. It's the other one I showed you the picture. The one that I think the cover was blue and whatever. It's $34.96. So if you've got the easier one, 6 to 10, is $30. And the 9 to 12 is $35. And you really don't get a well-made Bible unless you get it on a particular sale or something, like the one I got for Mama. You don't get much less expensive. Now, anybody wants to talk to me about that, I'll give it to you. I want to show you one more thing before I stop. This was what came with this. I told you that they had it was sealed up, and I was in this particular store. The kids' Bibles was 4, maybe 5 shelves, and it was probably 10 to 12 feet long. You can imagine the kids' Bibles they had. But I picked out what I thought was best for this purpose. This purpose was something that would be easy to read, but a Bible, not children's stories. A Bible, easy to read, no pictures or anything that would embarrass an adult. Now, while I'm looking for all of this, my friend, who knows me pretty well, I had given her husband a Bible, which was not 2 Bibles in one, but 4. I gave it to him because he's a student of the Bible and a teacher of the Bible. And I thought he would appreciate the historical features in that. Well, look what Mama got. $44.97. 4 Bibles, NIV, which is what we've just been talking about here. NIV is the version that most Protestant denominations, all evangelical denominations, were represented by the translators. In the translation of this particular version. It's accepted. I know of a denomination that recently, when they ordained ministers in their previous service to do that, they gave them all an NIV Bible. The next is NKJV. We used this our first trip. Preacher with Parrots started using this Bible the first time we went through the Bible about 9.5 years ago. New King James Version. You've heard about King James Version and the people who think it's the only Bible worth reading. Well, New King James Version, I'm going to show you here in a little bit, but New King James Version changes things like thee and thou into you and yours, but it still has a lot of biblical language. If you're a new Christian, you may not be familiar with the biblical language. So even though the words aren't hard to read, you might not know what they mean. And I'll give you an example a little bit. Then the next one is NLT. Living used to be called the Living Bible. Now they're calling it Living Translation. This is the New Living Translation. I read it. I didn't read it through. I'm going to explain to you in a minute how I go about making decisions about what versions are good that I recommend. The other one was totally new to me. Had no idea till I saw this what the message was. As it turned out, a publishing company went to a particular doctor of Bible literature and asked him to write out a Bible for them to publish. He spent, I'm going to guess 10, 12 years or more teaching biblical languages in a seminary. He was a teacher to ministers, teaching them Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. So he's pretty familiar with the languages. Then, I'm not going to be, yes, and that's very good. And I'll explain that comment when I get back to my class. This fellow then became a pastor for 30 years. And he found, this is the easiest to read of the 4. and I'll talk while I'm taking it apart. He found or tried to find ways of taking all of his knowledge of languages and biblical languages, but talking to a congregation that had no clue. So he's trying to take all this advanced knowledge and put it in easy language. Now, what I'm emphasizing tonight, I have another video on what Bible should I buy, what Bible should I read. And hey, I'm a King James person, but I was born in 1931. I went to Bible college in 1947, and I have all this behind me. What I prefer, you all may not understand, and I'm not putting you down. If you don't understand something, it can't help you. That's why my general recommendation to everybody is, if you don't understand either the King James, the New King James, the Holman, the NIV, if you don't understand that, get something you do understand just for easy reading, like I used to do when I would go to the junior high department. I certainly, when I got through reading, could not build a spaceship, but I knew a lot more about it than I did when I read the college version and couldn't understand it. So I got this. It's got real nice, it's not leather, but it's a real nice soft cover. This is a 4-in-1. It looks like this. The paper is good for any notes that I might want to make. The print is readable. I could have used it a little bit bigger, but this was the option I chose. Now I'm going to take something from the New Testament. I'm going to read all 4, and it'll just give you an idea. And then I'm going to make my recommendation again and close the video. This is Matthew 25. This is the New International Version, NIV, the one that a number of churches were, all Protestant churches and all evangelical churches had a part. Now that doesn't mean that all churches got to make the Bible say what they wanted it to say, but at least they were on committees and could give their opinions and so forth. So this is New International. This is acceptable. If you don't understand King James, because it has a lot of biblical language, if you don't understand that, this is acceptable. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." I see a problem already. In the old Bible times, the word virgin could mean what it means to you and I, or it could mean a young woman. If that's not clear in your mind, this might be a little confusing. All right. Let's go to the New King James. This is King James with some changes, like thee and thou, but others have not been changed. It's still the old-fashioned biblical language. And at midnight the cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him." Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." Now let's go to the two easy versions. Ones that I would say read, but know there might be a little bit more you're missing. But hey, if you don't understand it, you're missing it all. So have the two. This is just my personal recommendation. Read something you can understand. Then, when you have a little bit more of a general idea, go to one of these that I'm calling acceptable for doctrine and things like that. I went to Central America in 1970, and that year, when I was on my way, I was listening to the radio in the car, and I heard that it had come out, and I told one of the two people that could write checks on my account in the States to buy me one of these Bibles and send it. That was called the Living Bible. It goes by a lot of different names. If it's for women, it's in pink, and it's got pictures of women and babies. If it's for teenagers, it's got, that kind of. But the actual writing is the same. The way they make it up is to interest different people, but the writing is the same. It is now called Living Translation. Problem with that version? It's not a translation. The people that made it did not go to the original Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. Well, what did they translate? English to English. They took difficult language to understand in the King James and just put easier words. But in doing that, you lose a little doctrine, you lose a little accuracy, because you haven't gone back by somebody who knows what they're doing to the original languages. It's just like if, is anybody else's sound okay? All right, I'll let you settle that. You're doing fine. You don't need my help. Okay. Now we're in the year 2015. So it's been, 45 years since then? Now they have the New Living Translation. I looked it over for somebody, and I felt that it was pretty good. At midnight, they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come and meet him." All the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. Then the 5 foolish ones said, and see, it says bridesmaids. It's not talking about virgins, so we don't have that distinction to try to figure out. They're bridesmaids. 5 foolish ones asked the others, "Please give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out." Now, here's the version. I have not read but a few verses. I've only had it for 2 days. It's the one where the gentleman was a teacher of biblical languages and then a pastor, where he tried to take his advanced knowledge and give it to people who didn't have that much knowledge. He comes up with this. In the middle of the night, someone yelled out, "He's here! The bridegroom's here! Go out and greet him." The 10 virgins got up and got their lamps ready. The silly versions said to the smart ones, "Our lamps are going out. Lend us some of your oil." So I've got here what I consider 2 adequate versions. The New International Version, NIV, and the New King James Version. If they're too hard for you, I recommend the New Living Translation and this one that I haven't read much. Now, I'm going to show you what I do when I'm looking at a Bible and want to make a decision on it. For that, I've got to go to Matthew 1. I'm just going to give you one example. I do this in several different things. I'll tell you why I picked this one. This tells me 2 things. I'm going to read Matthew 1, 23 and 4. This tells me two things. First of all, it tells me the language that's being used isn't language we really use today. It also gives me a doctrinal clue. It talks about Mary and Joseph consummating their marriage after Jesus is born. So Jesus is born of a virgin. This is the angel talking to Joseph. Now you're going to hear all kinds of language for consummating a marriage. And Mary and Joseph after the birth of Jesus. It talks about the angel of the Lord coming to Joseph in a dream. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophets. This is NIV. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him, and he took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. Now, we know the angel told Mary his name would be Jesus, but when they went to the temple to give his name after 8 days, it is the father, the male, who says his name is. Same thing happened with John the Baptist. When John couldn't speak, he wrote, his name is John, and everybody says, you ain't got no loved ones by the name of John. It was the custom for the man to say what the name was. All right, that was NIV. They used the terms consummate the marriage. Let's look at the other acceptable one, the New King James Version. So all this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear. Now, be with child. This is the New King James Version. I told you it's got a lot of biblical language in it. Being with child is biblical language. It means to be pregnant. But nowadays, we sort of say pregnant. When I was a little girl, or my grandmother, they would say she's with child, or she's in a family way. Generations go by, and people say things in slightly different ways, and this is the purpose of the different translations. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and bear a son. They shall call his name Emmanuel, which is translated God with us. Then Joseph, being aroused from his sleep, did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took his wife. Let me read that again. And took to him his wife. Still kind of biblical language. We don't say, our wedding is at 4, and I will take to you as my wife in the evening when we get to the hotel. We just don't talk that way. I think we would all understand, but it's still biblical language. If you've never been in church, never read the Bible before, you may have a little trouble with it. And did not know her. That's biblical language. Of course he knew her. I mean, they were engaged from the time she was probably 7 or 8 years old. Of course he knew her, as you and I know the word know. But that's still biblical language. Let's go to the New Living Translation. And she will have a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All of this occurred to fulfill the Lord's message through the prophet. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son, And they shall call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him and took Mary as his wife. But he did not have sexual relations with her until her son was born, and Joseph named him Jesus. I think we all understand that language. I think it's accurate. It's not vulgar. I'm going to show you one I don't approve of, although in general I think I approve of this guy. Let's go to the Message, where this guy is a teacher of biblical languages, and then later he's a pastor. Joseph, son of David, don't hesitate to get married. Mary's pregnancy is spirit conceived. God's Holy Spirit has made her pregnant. She will give birth to a son, and when she does, you, Joseph, will name him Jesus. God saves, because he will save his people from their sins. This would bring the prophet's embryonic sermon to full term. Watch for this. A virgin will get pregnant and bear a son. They will name him Emmanuel, which is Hebrew for God is with us. Then Joseph woke up. He did exactly what Mary's angel commanded in the dream. What God's angel commanded in the dream. He married Mary. He did not consummate the marriage until she had the baby. He named the baby Jesus. One of these modern ones says they didn't sleep together until after Jesus was born. Listen, there are poor people that have 2 bedrooms. I grew up in a household like 2 bedrooms. One for mom and dad. The other one was for the kids. You got 3 kids, you got 4 kids. 4 kids sleep in a bed. That's sleeping together. Now, we hear the term. You and I know what they mean, but it's just not accurate enough for me. If I was in court interpreting a case and somebody used the term they were sleeping together or last night they slept together, because I take an oath that says, I promise to the best of my ability to hereby translate English to Spanish and Spanish to English to the best of my ability. I would have to say, Your Honor, may I inquire? And that means, Your Honor, I got to ask some questions before I can make an accurate translation. The judge would usually say, Madam Interpreter or Miss Interpreter, you may inquire. And then I would say, when you say sleeping together, you mean a bunch of people in the same bed asleep? Or you mean something else? So I'm really picky. So, long story short, I still believe, get a version you understand, one you can read. And then, when you've read a certain portion, go to one of the ones that I consider adequate. Now, more than adequate, I would say King James. And somebody mentioned in the chat box about a particular version of King James. And in my opinion, he's correct. There was one version that is more accurate than the others. All of these, both the what I call adequate and what I call super good, they all go back to the original languages. Some go back to an acceptable translation and start from there. Well, I'm very picky. So I'm going to close. This turned out to be a 54-minute. I thought this would be a 20-minute video. That's my recommendation to you. If you don't have very much money, you can get a King James version in the 99-cent store for 99 cents. Uh, you can go to Walmart and get an inexpensive. If you don't understand that you don't have to buy an expensive one, you're not going to read it that much, you're not going to mark it up. Then get an easy reading version that you can read, that makes sense to you. Read it. After you read it, then go read the same thing in an adequate or a better version for more clarity. But if you don't understand biblical terms, reading King James is not going to help you. After you've studied for 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70 years, it'll be different. But I'm talking to people that are starting out. And I have discussed this before in a previous video. However, it did not occur to me at that time that there might be people who had trouble with any of the versions out there. And I find the kids' Bibles, the one I showed you that I've had for a long time, I find it very good. Let's see what it says. I think it's the one that says, slept with her. Let me see. All of this took place to bring about what the Lord had said would happen. He said, through the prophet, the virgin is going to have a baby. She will give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel. The name Emmanuel means God with us. Joseph woke up. He did what the angel of the Lord commanded him to do. He took Mary home as his wife, but he did not have sex with her until after she gave birth to a son, and Joseph gave him the name Jesus. That's the 6:10 version. And I think we all understood when they said he had sex with her. So this is a very good, almost adequate, but very good. Let me close this video, and then I'll get back to my light class in just a second.